Okay, so picking up where we left off, we copied the parameters from an event up here so that we could paste them in our event that we're creating down here. The one change I'm going to make is I know this is only going to be handling buttons, so I'm going to change this argument to be of type button. Now normally we would follow up an event handler with the word handles and then list all of the things that we're going to be handling. But in this case, one, I'm going to be handling a lot of things. I don't want to have to type them all out. And two, if I add more buttons later, I want those to automatically be handled as well. And we might have up to 25 or even 36 buttons we're handling here. So I don't want to have to type all those out. So instead, we're going to go up here and we will tell the button where to go to be handled. So to do that, you type in add handler. Add handler needs two parameters. First is the event that it's going to handle, which in this case is the click event for each button. So buttons I, that references one of our buttons that we're instantiating, and .click. And then the second argument is the address, the location where we're going to handle this. And so you type in address of, and then the name of the event that is going to do the handling. So in this case, it's the button handler that we just created. So that associates every one of our buttons to the same button handler. So we can test this out by just putting in a message box. And we'll make sure that it works for each one of our buttons. So that button's been clicked, that button's been clicked, and it works for all of our buttons. Now what I want is for each of our buttons to keep track of how many times it's been clicked. So that's why we have our labels in there. But in order to keep track of which button was clicked and how many times, we need to know which button was clicked. That information is sent via the sender. But in order to tell which button was clicked, I would like to have an ID for each button. So that's the last new thing we're going to learn here, is how do I create an ID that's specific to each button when all the buttons are stored in the same spot or the same array. So to do that, Visual Basic has a property called tag. Tag is a string. In this case, we're going to just set our tag to I, and it'll convert it to a string automatically for us. So we're setting an ID for each button. So button 0 gets a tag of 0, and button 1 gets a tag of 1, and so on. So now down here, when the button is clicked, it will make this event start. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to save that tag so I can reference it. So to get the tag, I need to access the tag property of the sender, because again, the sender is the thing that was clicked and started this event. Sender.tag is a string that's not going to go to an integer. It's not going to convert itself to an integer, so we have to do that by calling integer.parse. So it'll take that string, convert it to an integer, and save it for us. So now that we have that ID, now I know exactly which count value I want to increase and which label I want to change. So we just have 2 lines of code left here. I'm going to increase the count at that same position ID by 1. And I'm going to change the text of the label at that same position to show the current count for that button. So again, if button 0 is clicked, that'll be the tag, and we're going to increase the count at position 0 and change the label at position 0 in the labels array. We'll try it out, and there we go. Each button has its own counter stored in an array of integers, displayed in an array of labels. handles.